Hey, up next on the podcast is my good friend Joe Frillman from Daisies in Chicago. Great guy, amazing stories, tremendous pedigree. And he did a dinner with us at Iggy's over the weekend in Nashville, and we're happy to have him.
You know, obviously the kids are here.
Oh, they're here now. Yeah, they're a blessing.
But I can absolutely envision my life either way. And I'm thoroughly thrilled with the outcome that I have.
You have three.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, man.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's like
you had a kid during the pandemic.
We did, yeah. That was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. But also, like, typically they give you, they always ask, like, do you want to stay another day in the hospital? And for the first time, we were like, no.
They were like, get the fuck out.
Well, they even said, like, hey, you can stay. And my wife was like, no, we're going to go. Yeah. And
was the third kid, you not know what to do, right?
Well, for sure. But then it's also like, she's still so drugged up that she still feels great. But as soon as that wears off, it's like, she realized, like, fuck, I should have stayed. Yeah. Because just from a help standpoint, because everybody's there, helping her out.
Totally.
But it was like a rush you did nothing to go at home because of COVID. Yeah. So it was like, fuck.
Was the hospital like, yeah, you guys got to go?
No.
Oh, okay.
They were not. They were like, you can stay if you want.
Were your kids? So I always hear like, oh, children were so affected by the pandemic of being home for a year and not going to school and wearing masks and speech. They have speech impediment. Is that true? From your standpoint?
It's not from my standpoint. The only thing I can see is our oldest, who's 7. He was 3. The only effect, if you will, and I don't even know if that's the case, is just he is scared to go on a floor without, like, he wants us to be with him at all times. That's not, I guess that's not even true. He needs someone to be with him. And I don't know if that's just because everyone was home all the time.
And that's what he knew.
And so he's used to that. Mm-hmm. But he will, it's not like it doesn't really matter who it is. He just wants to he doesn't like to be alone. That's it. I've heard from a lot of other people, like, that's normal for his age. Because even like he won't go upstairs by himself in the house.
He's scared of the dark.
He's scared of,
well, yeah, but who isn't scared of the dark?
He won't go to the basement because he's scared. I get that one. It's a scary basement, kind of. But, like,
it's an old Chicago basement.
Yes and no. I mean,
turn the lights off and run up the stairs as fast as you can.
Yeah, I mean, but, like, other than that, I think it was the best thing that ever happened to us because, like, you're running a restaurant. Yeah. Now I'm working from home, and I'm there all the time. My wife is a school teacher, so she's working from home. So we were there all the time. Yeah. And so for us, it was like we just bought a house March or February of 2020, and it was kind of like after 5 years, a much needed break of, like, and I've been running my nuts off.
I think
forever.
I think restaurant people
so
thrived.
They did.
I remember talking to. I didn't realize it. I didn't realize like
it sucked.
How much I enjoyed it. Well, I was by myself. Like I had a fucking great time.
Yeah.
I was talking to Mike Bagel, like probably like a month or two into it. He's just like, no one's calling me to tell me the dishwasher called in sick.
Yeah, that's
There's no meetings I have to go to. There's no one's emailing me.
Yeah.
There's no, I gotta be here. I gotta deal with that person. No one's quitting.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck yeah. Right. He's like, dude, I caught up on fucking like 20 years of sleep.
Yeah.
It's
true.
I feel like
I was going to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Sometimes I was like, I lived alone. So sometimes I would like make dinner, and Nashville's like really weird. Like during daylight savings time, it gets dark here at like 4:30. It's fucking dark, right? Pressing like I don't
Chicago,
know, like 5:15. It's like 10 minutes earlier than Chicago.
Yeah.
So like I would make dinner and eat, and at like 6 o'clock I'd be done eating, and it would be pitch black outside. I'd be like, well, it's time to go to bed. I'd look at the clock and be like, oh, it's 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Any other time I'd be like, well, you're not going to bed. During the pandemic, I was like, fuck it. And I purposely wouldn't clean the kitchen so I would have something to get out of bed in the morning. There were a lot of times I laid in bed.
Yeah.
I mean, until 5, 6, 7 at night.
Yeah.
And there was like a long stretch of time where I wasn't even showering, man.
Yeah.
You know, collecting my my to-go items that were left on the front porch, like Gollum, wrapped in a blanket.
Wiping them down.
You know, and like, you know, didn't see the light of day for weeks, you know? And that's when I went into, I wouldn't call it depression, but I had this crazy insomnia where I was going to bed at like 8, 9 in the morning.
Wow.
And then I would be up all fucking night.
Yeah,
and it lasted probably the whole month of July.
Wow.
You know, so it was like the pandemic was still new. It was all stress, you know,
of course,
everything around you. And that's when I came up with the idea, like, turn the house into like a private dinner party, which like saved me financially, mentally. I met Preston. I met so many great people.
Well, that was, like, for us, it was just like rally around the people that you wanted to invest in and keep around, and crucial to the future of the restaurant. And also, like I said, like, guy who worked with me 15 years making pasta, like, doesn't have any avenues for aid, etc. It's like, God, I owe it to this person to make sure that they're taken care of, you know? Yeah. And it was a lot of those conversations, and it allowed a lot of freedom for like we all talk about, like, from a yes, we're cooking to-go food and all this shit, but it was like every day, especially in the first 2 months, it was like, we need to get rid of all this inventory.
There's no concept. You just cooking food.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it was fucking cool.
Yeah.
And so, like, I let them basically do whatever they wanted. It was like, I'd rather have you guys here, have a job, you know, like, take care of positions. I'm not going to take away jobs from people. So they had free reign to basically do whatever they want in to-go boxes. Yeah. But it morphed into all these different programs. And that's kind of where we are now.
I think, same thing. I think it took the blinders and the pressure off of me to cook a certain way, if that makes any sense. There was no concept for what I was doing in my house. And it was just like, just make good food, whatever you fucking want. Yeah. And it really, like, opened me up for that year and a half that I did it, to just, like, being very comfortable with, like, the food that I cook, what I want to make, and not be adhered to, it's got to be a traditional Basque style, you know, or some weird region of Italy that no one's ever heard of, and they're like, okay, can I get a cacio e pepe? You know, like, I feel like it helped me grow a lot as a chef doing those dinners. So,
yeah, as from a business standpoint, it really showed me the importance of diversification of your.
What have you folded into the everyday since that? Yeah.
The pastry program's
the pastry
biggest,
program's huge.
Biggest.
Yeah. Well, you have one of the best. You have one of the best pastry chefs in the city of Chicago.
She's fucking great.
Yeah,
man. She really is.
Rock star.
It's like that was an opportunity.
Leo Malinsky is the girl we're talking about.
Omelinsky.
That's a Chicago name.
She's very.
It's a Southside Chicago name.
In it, the farmers market.
Yeah.
is a huge stay for us right now.
You still do it?
Absolutely.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
7 a week. It's fucking crazy. It's like we bought 2 vans. And one of our servers, who's been with us since day one, didn't want to work nights anymore, and it was like an opportunity for her to still stay with the company, and she took over the whole program. It's Becca Fisher, and she is awesome. And it's like, I talk about it a lot in terms of it's like one part of the program that I don't have to pay much attention to, because she they've gotten it to this point, and there's problems, but she handles
there's
all
always
of them.
Problems,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she handles them. Thomas like the group around her helps to sort them out and develop programs. It's like a blessing of just like, man, I really don't have to manage this program that much. And so those are, when we first started, I was the one working the farmers market stand every Saturday.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So I'm there, pulling up in my fucking Honda,
unloading
a trunk of Yeti coolers with 200 pounds of pasta in it.
Like the old Maxwell Street, the guy like, hey man, you want some gold chains?
Absolutely. I got some pappardelle. Yeah. But seeing how much it took off, and the desire for just quality product, that's you don't see it often. Like they have fresh pasta in like Whole Foods.
Sure.
but it wasn't made that morning or the night before.
Right.
It's probably been sitting there.
Or the guy that made it isn't standing in front of you.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so like that was a huge selling point for us. It allowed us to put a branded tent in Lincoln Park that a whole new neighborhood got to see, and then allowed us talking points to market and sell the restaurant. Of like, hey, we exist in Logan Square. I know this is Lincoln Park.
Yeah,
we do exist in Logan Square.
Where's that? You need a passport to get there?
But it even today, it's like people are like, "Oh, you're a restaurant? Like we just thought you were a pasta store," and vice versa. They're like, "You guys sell your pasta? Like, where can I get it?"
Don't you think that's crazy with the amount of like money we spend on marketing and PR and articles are written? I'm still so surprised that like people have never heard of like the restaurant's been there for 15 years. How have you never heard of this place? Where do you eat at? You know?
No, it's a lot of that, especially when we started doing it. Because then, of course, that you're marketing the new program.
Yeah.
And that's all you see. So then anybody who's new to it thinks that's all you do, and because they're constantly seeing that. So then when we have lunch, like lunch came out of this whole. There was this point in time where we were going to take and turn the restaurant into a full-time market. During the day that converted into what we do at dinner.
I mean, you could have easily done that.
We absolutely could have.
Yeah.
And I think by the time we got to it, it was almost kind of burnout on it a little bit from the public of just like, cool guys, you got, your meal kits or whatever it is.
Once everything started opening up, that kind of fell off the map of meal kits and pasta kits and markets. And people are going back to the store without a mask on, or like no reason for it. Did you feel that or?
A little bit. It was more like there was so much. We started so many programs, and
just throwing shit at the wall.
Yeah, we really did, and everything really worked. And to bring it all together would have taken another substantial financial conversion of the dining room. Like we were like, let's put in refrigeration, like make it an actual grocery store. And then
really? You were going to go that far? Huh?
We were going to do it to the point where it was like, during the day counter service. Because at first it was like, how do you bring people to the farmers market that we had this pseudo bizarre farmers market set up in the dining room, where we brought in, my brother's farm,
which is fine for COVID, but then, you got to figure that today. People are going to be like, what the fuck is this place?
For sure.
Yeah.
And dinner makes your money.
Yeah.
And so it was, with dinner not really being a thing at that time, it was like, how do you bring more people to your grocery store, if you will, bazaar, farmer's market. I was like, let's start serving sandwiches in addition to it. Let's offer other impulse buys or put cookies on the shelves and put, whatever it is. But then the sandwiches took off, and we're like, oh fuck, now we have to keep doing this. So now there's a lunch program. Lee's pastries were just going bananas that she was selling at that farmer's market.
I was so disappointed when me and Matthew were in Chicago 2 weeks ago to see LCD, and we specifically wanted to come for lunch. And I was so disappointed. I walked in and the fucking pastry counter was just fucking empty. And Matthew's like, you guys gonna refill that? And the girl, like, dead in her eyes, behind the eyes, she's like, no. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, after they usually do 2 bakes at least, and then, but once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things.
That's the way to do it.
And so, but we saw like, it was like, oh, well, her pastries bring all the boys to the yard.
Was she with you? Was she with you from the beginning?
No. So
okay.
COVID is what, very first job I had was at Osteria di Tremonto when we were in the same kitchen. She was in the pastry kitchen. So we've known each other for 20 years almost. And so there was that familiarity of, and respect for.
Man, a lot of fucking people worked at that place. Man.
Oh yeah, man.
It was in Wheeling, right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like Jared Van Camp.
Jared Van Camp.
Stuart Davis. Pandel.
Lee.
Monto. Greg Biggers.
Yeah, man. Fuck.
Michael Ponzio, who he was awesome.
He's a good dude. He's like a country club chef now,
right?
I always see him like
he was at
Olympia
Field.
Yeah,
Olympia
Fields. Yeah, Olympia Fields.
I think it was Olympia Fields.
Yeah. He's a really good dude, man. Nice
awesome.
guy. Nice guy.
Awesome person.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Tons of, all of the entire Bristol kitchen.
Who was the CDC there?
Jared Van Camp,
technically,
of Osteria, and then Biggers was CDC of
Where's
the
Jared
steakhouse.
Van Camp now?
I think he's at Chicago Firehouse.
Yeah.
On the south side.
Great chef.
He's awesome, dude.
Yeah, great chef, man.
Like, and again, like, forged those. You know, I kept in contact with those. I still talk to them.
As you should.
Yeah. It's just like
I mean, I try to stay in contact with a lot of people, and I always send out every day. I probably send about 10 text messages. Hey, what's up? Thinking of you.
Yeah, it's
to
cool.
answer. What's up?
Yeah.
And like, some people, some people are like,
Fuck
man,
off.
I wish. No, not at all. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I don't get a response at all.
Yeah, of course.
But Kevin Fink said to me one time, he's like, yeah, you're really good about staying in contact with people. I'm fucking terrible at it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? You're fucking friends, man.
Yeah.
Like,
It's not hard.
Just saying hello.
Yeah.
That's it. How's life, man?
For sure. And life is busy, but with
you got to take time for your friends.
You do.
Especially the people that you were in the trenches with at restaurants. Like, that's not a friend. That's like a war buddy.
Yeah.
Like,
that's absolutely true. I mean,
we stormed the beach at Normandy together, man. Like,
I mean, it's about the same. I mean, we talk about, I was talking with Josh yesterday, and it was like,
Josh Remiggies.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was like, it's almost like you go to jail for 10 years. You basically just like, my friends would always be like, how's prison, man? Like, we haven't seen you in a decade. I miss everything. You miss all birthdays. You miss all, weddings. You miss births, deaths. You just miss it. And it was a 10-year period of time where I realized, like, hey, there's a huge part of your life missing. Family, friends. And like we were talking about, like, what are your hobbies now? Today. And I was like, going home.
Yes.
Like, it's the best.
Sitting in silence with the TV off,
It's
watching
the best. I was like, and like in reevaluating and reinvesting in those the relationships that you missed for so long, of just like, I got a group of friends from like kindergarten, 6 people I talk to every day, and it was like you just miss them.
Jesus
For
Christ.
10 years.
I couldn't even name anybody from kindergarten.
Yeah, it's
man.
wild.
Yeah.
But then kids, your family, and like that stuff now is just the most important thing of all of it. It's like you acquire these skills. These skills are going to take me where I need to go. You can rely on the lessons that were learned from also mentors and just unbelievably close friends that you forge in those situations. But after like, hey man, after 5 nights a week of a case of High Life, a bottle of Malort at a bar until 4 in the morning.
It's too much.
And then going back to work at 9, 10 in the morning, working until 1 in the morning. You're with those people all day, every day. And I, to this day, love all of those people. And we still stay in contact a little bit, but it's like you spent so much time with them for those 10 years that you have to basically, it was like, I need to go back to kind of your roots and reinvest in the people who kind of neglected. And then, even my parents were always just like, there was a period of time where every job I took was for less money.
Dude, same.
Farther away from home.
Same.
For when we, going across to the world to work to not get paid. Mm-hmm. And they're like, dude, what are you doing?
This was and for me, it was like the late 90s, early 2000s when there wasn't TV shows explaining. There wasn't Anthony Bourdain being like, listen,
this is what your kids
children's
doing.
are on a fucking there. It was like I was working downtown Chicago and I took $1 less to go work for John Bonche.
Yeah.
And my family was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, for sure.
And then I moved to California to take the job of French Laundry. And they were like, can't you get a job here?
Yeah.
And then they found out how much money I was making and they're just like, what's... And then from there, I moved to Spain.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we're done with this guy.
Yeah.
We just like, okay.
Well,
like,
I mean,
whatever, man.
I was like, come back. And then, met my girlfriend, who's now my wife. And then they were like, you're going to take a 3-month fucking trip with a girlfriend? Like, you know.
It's such a weird concept to them, right?
And you're going to sell your car?
Yeah.
What are you doing, dude? Yeah. Like, you've been doing this for 4 or 5 years. You're going backwards in terms of money.
Let me get this straight. You took $1 less to go work here. You took $10,000 less a year to go work there, and now you're going to work for free?
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. It's like... And like, to be fair, like, my parents have never been anything except supportive. They've never questioned it. to my face. I'm sure they were like, "What is this kid doing?"
Touche. Yeah. Right.
You know, because I spent time in college, dropped out of college 2 years in, and
What were you studying in college?
Architecture.
And what happened to that?
Everything, you know. So like, AutoCAD. It was like I have no patience for this whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's the basics of it. It was just like really everything was on computers. There was not a ton of like, you know, I grew up. My grandfather was an architectural engineer, and he had a drafting table, and there was something romantic about that. Like, I really, you know, I'm very artistic, and you know, and like enjoyed perfection and the details, and really had just fond memories of those times. It's the only way I really knew him. And so for whatever reason, I was like, I really am interested. I've always been interested in it, buildings, etc. So I was taking architecture classes in just in Northern Michigan University in Marquette, where there's nothing to do except
Marquette's great. Yeah.
except drink beer, and ski.
Yeah.
So I
ski. Right. Yeah.
It was my first it was the only job I've ever been fired from. I was a server at a Chinese restaurant, and I would just make as much money as I can to buy a ski pass, and then instead of going to class, I would go to the ski mountain and drink and have fun, and you know. So I got my gen eds out of the way, and then left there, and then came back. But like, you have debt. Like my parents didn't have money to pay for school. My dad's just like, "What the fuck are you doing, dude?" Yeah. We're sitting here, you know, trying to help you out, but it got to a point where it was just like, this is it. Like whatever decisions you're making are on your own. You're gonna, you know, you have to pay that off eventually. And as a 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid, like you don't think about those things.
Why would you? That's why I think of all these kids signing away to college. You know, they don't realize. They don't fucking realize. The amount of debt and accumulation. And no one explains it to them.
Well, my dad did the best he could to make
the best
sure
he could, but it's kind of like you don't
really
fucking understand that until you're like, oh shit, like, and also like I just graduated with this amazing degree, and there's no jobs in the field.
Yes, correct.
So not only am I not going to start paying this debt back with what I was promised to make per year by getting this degree, I'm going to make a fraction of the amount working in a service industry.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was getting $7.50 an hour when I got out of school.
Yeah.
And I spent $70,000 on culinary school.
Fucking crazy.
You know what I mean? Like,
where'd you go to culinary school? Kendall?
Illinois Institute of Art in Chicago.
Ooh. What is it
Just
called?
got my. Apparently, I'm getting all my money back.
Are you?
Yeah, apparently. I don't know.
Oh, it was some sort of scam or something, right?
No, they were doing predatory loans, which I saw in action. Like,
I mean, they're all
up,
fucking
dude.
predatory loans. What are you
Like,
talking about?
absolutely.
You can't give a fucking 18-year-old kid in college a credit card for any reason at all.
It was wild to see some of the people that were in there that were basically recruited to come in, who like had no business. You could see it. You have no business. You're never going to make it in this career, and you're paying all this money. You shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
A lot of it, there was people who were in like taking cooking classes because they were just interested in it at home, and you're like, you are wasting so much money right now.
I went to college to DuPage for like a semester, and it was this hodgepodge of bored housewives, one or two guys like me that actually worked in a restaurant, and then like the rest of it was like, I remember this, like I can't get this out of my head. I was talking to this one guy, and he was asking me where I'm in an internship at instead. And I'm like, you know, I work at this place around the corner from my house, and you know, I cut salmon all day. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you don't work at a restaurant? He's like, no. I drive a forklift at Home Depot or something. I'm like, why are you going to culinary school and not working in a restaurant?
Yeah.
And I couldn't fucking understand it.
There was a lot of that.
He's like, well, as soon as I finish school, then I'm going to get a job. And I was like, on the other thing, I was like, this is a waste of time. I'm learning.
Yeah.
I remember standing around the guy. There were 9 of us standing around the instructor watching him butcher a chicken. Yeah. And I'm like, I do 30 of these every fucking day. And I have to. Yeah. This is not like, oh, can I? Like, here you go, Ryan. You got to get this done.
Well, it was like, I remember going to, I tried that route, and then no one would hire me because they're like, you've never worked in a kitchen.
Oh, really? See, I got lucky.
You have no schooling.
I got really, really lucky.
And at that time, cooks were plentiful.
Yeah.
This is like 2005, I want to say. And I think I went to like bin 36, and they were like, dude, no, get out of here. Mm-hmm. And I was like, seriously? Like, I will do anything. And so I was met with a lot of just like, sorry.
I worked at the shittiest places where they're just like, yeah, we'll hire you. Fucking who cares, you know?
And I was always in front of house situations. Like, I was a Cubby Bear. I was a food runner. I was would work right with the expediter, busser. So I'd always have a view into the kitchen and was like, man, I'd rather be working back there, even though I was making way more money where I was as a kid than they were. I was like 16, making more money than the line
But
cooks.
you knew you wanted to cook, though.
I've always had interest in food, and yeah, I think so. It was more of like we would always go to restaurants. This one particular restaurant was Journey's End in Mundelein. It was like this. They were known for their soup. And it was like Greek-run restaurant, like awesome,
man.
awesome,
Yeah.
It was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Fish fry, but the soups they had were just amazing, and they would rotate every Friday. It was like clam chowder, and they always had their vegetable, which I still have the recipe for, because when they closed, they gave it out. But it was like one of these things, and they were there forever. But Friday nights or special occasions, we were always there. And that was my introduction to food. Really, there was like 2 or 3 restaurants that I would pay attention to. It was not revolutionary food by any means, but it was like super comforting, super welcoming. Hospitality was over the top. Owner was always there, making sure everybody was taken care of. And my grandpa would always take us with our family. Grandpa would always pay. And so, but it was that. It was like that upbringing coupled with didn't have cable growing up, so it was like I would watch nothing but Frugal Gourmet.
Yeah, man.
Jan Con Cook, Julia Child,
all of that. I watched all of that.
Fucking
yes.
America's Test Kitchen. Like PBS.
I remember telling my mom, we got to get peanut oil. She's like, what are you watching?
I mean, I would secret, and of course, I didn't tell anybody that I was interested in food necessarily, but my parents were just like, this kid just watches fucking cooking shows all day long.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
Every day after school. And so, that really, so then I started secretly, bought a mandolin and would just dude, the concept of making French fries at my house was awesome.
Anytime
at 11 years old.
Anytime you want.
Yeah. And so they would go, my brothers, my older brother was supposed to be watching me. He'd be nowhere to be found, and I'd be making fucking French fries and a mandolin. And I'll never forget the 1, 2 straight down the thumb. And you're just like, oh my God, I need stitches.
Yeah.
Parents are like, what are you doing?
Burns.
Sticking around with French fries. So, but I never really pursued it. It wasn't there was no, my mom was a great cook, awesome baker. And it was semi-homemade stuff. So it was always for birthdays, she would ball out and make galumpkies or a whole fucking pan of them or lasagna or your meals that you loved. A lot of other stuff was pieced together. She had 4 kids to feed. My dad was the only, he was in the union he worked at Illinois Bell, which is Meritech, and then it became AT&T as a linesman. So he would go out when landline telephones were a thing, and he would be out up poles fixing the lines. But took care of a family of 4, on a linesman salary in a union, which is great. But it wasn't like we were rolling in money. So we didn't go out to restaurants a ton. And so my exposure to, fine dining was nothing. It was non-existent. I think the first time I went to a truly fine dining restaurant was Spiaggia when I was 18 years old.
Oh shit, huh? And
I took a girl there. I think I was probably 19, and I had no idea how expensive it was going to be. I was just so naive and was eating the dinner and get there and she's like, "Well, I'll have a lobster ravioli." I was like, "Oh, yeah, shit, I'm fucked." I was in the bathroom trying to figure out how to get how to pay for this meal. But yeah, it was not until once I got to college in northern Michigan, I started actually cooking in people's houses off campus. Not for fun, right? Just hey guys, you want to eat? Let's try something out. Hey, let's try this. Hey, let's try this. I'll cook hungover as shit, just making people egg sandwiches and things like that. And started really, really enjoying that. And then noticed that they had a culinary program there. One of my friends that I met there was in it and was like, "It's awesome, love it." And then came, drank my face off, got caught cheating in a Excel class.
Excel,
yeah, yeah. It's they, it took 2 seconds for this guy to see the sheet went to every single person in the class because it's all on a file that shows you where it went, which is what I was in the class to learn how to to do. Right. And they were like, if you come back, you'll be on probation. And
Oh, is that serious?
Yeah.
Oh,
they were like,
Jesus Christ, man.
like, I was doing dumb shit. Yeah. So, MIPs and also, like minor possessions, boozing, partying, great time. Best time.
College.
Honestly, best time of my life.
Sounds like a very standard college
very much so.
experience.
But it was, and then came down to, I left. And I went to College Lake County for 1 semester to do their food program. Yeah. And then somebody convinced me to, hey, check it out downtown. Like, what's the difference of a college, downtown as opposed to it? So it introduced me to the city. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, Tremonto brought his restaurant out to Wheeling. And I was still living at home to save money.
Was that your first breakout?
Professional kitchen, yeah.
Really?
Like, prior to that, there was a restaurant, friend of mine from high school, Tony Fontanini. He had a pizzeria in Mundelein, and it was his dad, his family had Fontanini Meats, which is a huge sausage company.
Yeah, I know. Yes.
You see their billboards on the United Center.
Yes,
like,
definitely.
Huge packing company. Mm-hmm. So, of course, they use all, Fontanini sausage and all those things. But it was to this day, it's the best pizza, thin crust pizza I ever had. And I would just go there, even prior to cooking, like culinary school. I would just go there to hang out because our friends were usually there. It was only takeout. It wasn't like a dining room. Mm-hmm. So it was a very small operation. The kitchen was probably the big as this room. One of those giant rotating ovens. Mm-hmm. And it was him, one of my other friends, and I would just help out and buy, I would run their catering, fucking orders to parties, delivering pizzas for them. I was wash dishes for free, like just hanging out. And then started getting into culinary school. He found out I'm going to culinary school, so he'd be like, hey, let's work on these potatoes. Let's see if we can make them a little better. You got that knowledge. So just dicking around with that kind of stuff.
So how'd you get the job at Tremonto then, with very little experience?
I was in school.
Oh, okay.
And I grew up in like Buffalo Grove area, would drive downtown to Wabash, culinary school, sit in traffic, 7 a.m., get out, 3 p.m., go right back, go to Tremonto's, 4 o'clock, sometimes 4:30. I'd be like, yo, I'm running late because of traffic. And I would work then until midnight, 1 in the morning, close the line, right back to school the next day.
Every chef has that same story.
Yeah.
I did it.
It's wild.
Everybody was driving somewhere to go somewhere to learn something, to work for free, to pick a couple hours up here, and driving across fucking town in a major city, sitting in traffic.
Well, and I always felt like I was behind the curve because at this point, I think I was 23.
Why did you feel that way?
Everybody that was in culinary school was 18.
Was 18, yeah.
Not everybody, absolutely not everybody, but a lot of people that I knew. And then I started looking around, like the people who were successful in the career. And I mean, like Pandel, dude's like 27.
Yeah.
Opening his, he's a corporate executive chef of Osteria. I think he's 27 years old.
Yeah.
Running this dude's entire empire. And just like one of the most skilled, masterful people, very mature. In terms of like how he ran the operation, like very respectful, very demanding in the best way. But like, dude's 27. I'm like, I'm only 4 years behind. He's only 4 years older than I am. And I'm a donkey in the back. Don't know dick about nothing.
Bull in a china shop.
Yeah. So it was like, I always felt like I was way behind. The people that I was around were all, and like my roommates were basically my age. They were all my sous chefs. And so I went extra hard on.
That's interesting, man.
And that's part of the reason that drove me to like, I found out about the 50 best list, and it was like, you can be a best restaurant in the world. Like, what does that even fucking mean?
What does that mean? Right.
And I literally, this is 2005, 6, and grabbed that list and just went down, sent an email to all of them. I was just like, can I come work in any of your restaurants? Because I didn't know what else to do. I was like, I want to see what it looks like at that level, first and foremost. And I was like, I'm behind. So I need to do something to get back ahead, either ahead of the people around me or for myself. And
see, I had an opposite experience. I got a job downtown at a very popular bistro, and everybody that worked there was my age, but they all went to Kendall.
Sure.
So there was like this little air of arrogance of like,
yeah, of course.
They would be like, "Oh, hand me a sautoir," or what the fuck, what is, But I had years more experience than them.
Sure.
I mean, like 3-4 years more experience of cooking, and I was a better cook than a good amount of them. But I felt inferior because I didn't go to school.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I understand that.
my parents started to get on the bandwagon of like, "Oh, this is a thing,"
Yeah.
So they were like, "We want to send you to Kendall." I don't know how they knew that or knew that Kendall even existed. And I said, "No, I don't want to do that. I want to go to the French Culinary Institute," because that was like a brand new school in New York.
Yeah.
It was a 2-year program. And I'm like, I got a good amount of experience. It didn't work at College DuPage. Like, I want to bypass all of this is a knife, this is a cutting board. I want to bypass all that. And that's what the French Culinary Institute was offering. I don't even know if that school's still around or not. But anyway,
I thought was there one in Chicago? I thought.
No, this was specifically just in. That's the French pastry school.
You're absolutely
maybe.
right. Yeah.
So this was like, and like Danielle Ballou was behind it. Bobby Flay at the time, who was like, he's still a great chef, but like was like a New York chef. All these New York chefs were like promoting it and behind it and everything. Like, this is the school you got to go to. We're gonna teach you this. You're gonna get internships at these restaurants. And I was like, fuck, this is a way to move to New York. And I got the application. I paid the $100 application fee. I got all the information back, the packet. This is the day you're going to start. Sign here. I don't remember how much it was, but it was for like 40, 50,000. It was a good amount of money for like a 2-year fucking program. The day before I signed it, the chef I was working for said, "Don't fucking do it. Don't waste your money. You're too far gone.
Yeah.
You just need to keep working in restaurants." And I went home and I told him, "Listen, I'm not doing this." They're just like, "The fuck are you talking?" Again, they're like, "What are we going to do with this guy?" And I said, "I don't want to do that." And then like, a couple months later, I heard John Bonchet was taking back over La Francais, and I said, "This is it.
Oh wow,
this is it. Like, if you're not gonna go to this school, this is the route you're gonna go."
Yeah.
And but I did feel like I didn't go to school. I didn't know these terminologies. I didn't know how to tie a neckerchief.
Yeah, sure.
So it was interesting to
skip that.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear you say that you were behind because you did go to school and you came in a little bit late.
Yeah, I've always felt that way, and then
which in hindsight right now means absolutely fucking nothing. Everybody's on their own fucking path to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very, I wanted to, I'm a very competitive person. I've had a sports background, grew up playing sports as much as I could, but there was, even to the point where it was like, again, we're sitting at 18 years old and my parents like working with a recruiter to like, we're going to pay this person money to help me get into a college to play basketball. And it's just like, man. And they were like, man, it's a lot of money. Like, but I mean, if this is really what you want to do, like, we'll figure it out. And I'm sitting there and I was like, you know what? I just can't. That's
a lot of pressure to put on an 18-year-old.
For sure.
Is this what you really want to do? I don't fucking know.
For sure.
Today, as of right now. And then you sign the papers, your parents are in debt, and tomorrow you're like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore.
I know. And I did, and I knew what that meant. Especially like, money wasn't the most prevalent thing. And so for me, it was like, do I see this panning out to anything that is going to make money? No chance.
Yeah.
Right. I had that self-realization of like, I'm a very competitive person, but I'm also a very self-aware individual. Mm-hmm. I try to be. And so I went the other route. And so I do liken a lot of what we do in this industry to, I want to outcook. At the time, I was like, I want to outcook the people around me. I want to put up the best food, not in a shitty way, always. But it was like in a very, whatever chef said was rule, and I wanted to, and I really believed in the people that I worked for. Mm-hmm. So, and their pedigrees were amazing, and so it's like, you guys worked for all these, I'm learning from people who are descendants of the great.
The lineage is the greatest thing, man.
Wild,
yeah,
man. Like,
yeah. That's one of the reasons why
and all these dudes.
That's one of the reasons I started the podcast, because I wanted to talk to chefs about where they came, how they came about, who was in the kitchen at the time with them, and then put the lineage together. I love going back as far as you can go back to see all these guys came from Le Pyramid.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna get to the point where all these guys came from the French Laundry. All these guys came from El Bulli. All these guys came from Alinea. All these guys came from X, Noma.
Yeah.
And we're at that. I mean, we're at that point right now,
for sure.
But like in the next 10 or 20 years, you're gonna see even more so in these temples,
for sure,
of those restaurants that I just named, that are producing all these amazing chefs.
I mean, and that was a real draw for me, and you know, the stories and the discipline that was handed down, if you will. It was
a different time.
It was a different time. It was a different time. I've never worked for anybody that really went over the line in a way that was malicious. It was more of like, I needed...
Not even in London or in England?
Oh, well, I pushed buttons there.
Yeah.
But that was kind of on purpose to see how far I could take it. And because I'm that type of person. Like, fuck you. You can fuck me, I'll fuck you right back to you.
You're a big guy.
I am. But that was, I mean, there was this dude, you know, this dude from Argentina was on me every fucking day. Yeah. Every second of every day. Because I had a mouth, too, of just like, you know, if I didn't like, I'll tell you. Like, if it's dumb as fuck, man. Like, what are we doing here? But at the end of the day, ended up being one of the best teachers. He wasn't there to ruin my day all the time. It was just like, hey, you need to shut the fuck up and do your job, dude.
This
like,
is how it's done. This
is how we do it. And then it would also just be like, the proof was in the work too, because he would be kind of coming at me in terms of like, you're slow. You need to do this faster. You need to do this better. And it would be like, you show me. Like, you're always telling me, fuck you, you do it. And it would be like, okay. And so he would go
like, why did I put
and
my
I'll
mouth?
never forget, it was like parsley. Like, we had to pick parsley. It was pick a case of parsley before you go home. Yeah. And it was like, okay, all 8 of you go over there. You pick this amount, and I'm going to pick the same amount, and we're going to see who wins. And he would win every time.
That's great.
And you're just like,
where's he now?
Fucking I have no idea.
Really? Yeah.
I have no idea.
That's great. That's for those stages you meet these guys, and like, I mean, even guys you worked with in the United States, I don't even know where some of these guys are, let alone he went back to Argentina.
There's a couple dudes that I still keep in contact with.
Yeah.
One of them's in Australia. One of them is in Finland. But yeah, I mean, like, they're just the most talented people assembled.
When were you at the Fat Duck?
2007, I think.
I ate there in 2005, right when, like, a week after they won 3 Michelin stars.
Yeah,
it was fucking.
And so when I got when
meal.
We walked in, they just went from 1 to 2, and so then when I because they were the only people who responded back, and they were like, hey, like, come over here, you can work in the kitchen, et cetera, et cetera. And
where did you was housing? It was a big problem, housing and stuff, right?
Huge problem.
There was no visa, so you were there completely fucking illegal, right?
I was allowed. Well, so I almost got kicked out. I almost got sent home.
Like, they don't fuck around anymore,
they don't.
man.
No, they do not.
Yeah, especially at the airport.
And that's where so he was like, what are you doing here?
Did you have your knives with you?
I did.
Yeah. Did they see your knives?
They didn't see the knives. I was exhausted, and I got off the plane, and I was at customs, and he's looking, and he's like, your return flight's, you're here for 2.5 months. Like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I'm working at a restaurant. And they said, working? Where's your papers? And I was like, no, I'm not working. I'm just, where's this? Where are you staying? Where's this?
Yeah.
Show me your papers on you don't have a hotel? What do you mean you don't have a hotel? And it was like, walk away from the podium, talking to 3 dudes. I'm like, I'm getting sent back right now.
Yeah.
I have no money to begin with. And so, like, I almost got kicked out before I even got there. Yeah. And so then
I got fucked up at the airport coming back from a stage. So I was living in Spain for a year, which Spain doesn't give a shit, but I was in London for like a day. I just literally flew to London, got off the plane, went to the other airport, and then I had all that proof. So this was, kind of after 9/11, 2004, 2003, 2004. I had a huge fucking North Face bag with all my stuff. And I didn't have a ticket because my aunt works for American Airlines, and she got me like the standby thing. So there was like this pre-check-in area, and then there was the area to get the tickets and stuff. So I put my things down. This lady was a fucking bitch. Where are you going, this and that. Then she opens my bag and pulls out the knife bag first thing. She goes, what is this? I go, oh, I'm a chef. I was doing a dinner in Madrid, and I'm flying back to the States, and she calls the guy over with two guys with machine guns come over now. And she goes, what are you doing in London? All the same questions.
Yep.
Where are you going with it? And she goes, this is not the United States. We don't carry weapons around in the United States like you do. And I'm like, weapons? These are my tools for a kitchen. They're obviously wrapped up. There's obviously spoons and a tweezer and knives. And she was, where's your ticket? And I'm like, I don't have a ticket. She said, what do you mean you don't have a ticket? And the guys were just like, and I was like, am I going to, in my head, I mean, what was I, 23, 24 years old? And I'm like, am I fucking going to jail? Am I locked up abroad?
Yeah.
And I said, my aunt works for American Airlines. She goes, oh, you're a class B-53. Oh, you're a,
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is going on, man? The guy pulls her aside. Same talk. And dude, I am like sweating. I had to change my shirt. I was drenched.
Yeah.
And she comes back, wraps everything up, and she's like, don't bring weapons back to the country, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and the guy just kind of looked at me like, and I was like, I was white-knuckled for 8 hours on the way home. I was like, are they going to let me off the plane?
Yeah,
like,
shit.
Yeah, it was crazy. They don't fuck around. They do not fuck around at the airports.
No.
In the UK, man.
No. I had a separate trip. So then I went to 2010. I went to Europe again. Sold my car. Like it was
where?
Nowhere. We just took a
Oh, you're on vacation.
Well,
did you bring your knives?
Yeah, of course.
Did you bring a gun?
No gun. But the whole point was like, I needed to go to Italy, and I was like, because I'd been working. Chris Mandel's just wealth of knowledge in terms of history of Italy, of culture, cuisine. Pull shit out of his ass and said, where the fuck do you get this? And fucking dude, it's nuts. And then I start going.
Some grandma showed
down the
me,
rabbit hole. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
and he had never been.
Yeah.
Like he would always like, I've never been to Italy. He was always like, I think it would fuck with my head if I actually went there because I have this one idea of what it is. And so it was like leaving. We opened Bristol in 2008. He took me and basically every sous chef from Osteria and turned them into line cooks. We were all line cooks then. And of course, like I'm the least experienced person at the Bristol, and all of my coworkers were my sous chefs at the previous restaurant. So it was this like dynamic of like, they all tell me what to do all day.
Yeah.
And so, but it was like three.
Here
of
we
them.
are in a smaller kitchen.
Yeah.
In a smaller setting.
100%. It went, and that place was probably 120 employees.
It's enormous, huh?
120 employees at least. And
what's there now? Is it still there?
It's still an Italian restaurant. Yeah.
It's in a casino, right? Or
no, it's a hotel.
A hotel. Yeah.
It's like a Westin.
Yeah.
Still there. It's still a restaurant banquet hall. It was a beautiful restaurant.
Yeah.
Like it was awesome. Like the food was fucking awesome.
Tremonti's a good chef, man.
It was fucking, dude. It was like, and truthfully too, it's like, Chris wrote a lot of the, helped write the cookbooks, helped write the cuisine. Jared, all these guys had their own influence. We were working with farmers. I met Marty Travis there from Spence Farm.
Yeah.
That was, I've had a relationship with him since 2006, 2007. Like that was my introduction to farm to table, which whatever cliche bullshit it is right now. But like that introduction of like taking care of the people, finding the best ingredients, going out and, how they went out, learned how to kill a hog themselves and how to butcher it, how to care for things. And so getting to, when we went to go open Bristol, I was like, man, this dude's just an unbelievable, just technician, wizard, wealth of knowledge. I need to work for this person in an environment where it was one of these things where it's just chance. Like he's working the line next to you every night.
Yeah.
You don't find those situations very often in this industry.
Even today.
At that level,
Yeah.
right? And so I got to work garde manger, which had 17 items on it because that's just what he did. It was like, hey, dude, you got 17 pickups. I'm sorry, you know nothing. You're gonna learn. It was boot camp. Like it was, and all the conversations leading up to that from all of the from Jared was like, you are going to jail. You are going to literally. I'll never forget, like Jared was like, you are going to have opportunities to go do things. You're going to have to say no because you're going to be at work. And it was like the Bears went to the Super Bowl. like all that kind of shit.
All of it.
You know what
man.
I mean? Like they're like, nope, like,
all
you're not
it.
going. Like
all of it.
All of those things I just missed. But it was one of those things where it was, you just don't get that opportunity often and it was basically the two sous chefs, myself, this dude from Iowa, Kevin, who just wandered through the door one day, and who's still in our lives. He's an awesome dude. Our dishwasher, who's the guy who makes all the pasta with me today still.
Sick.
And so,
was Amanda Rockman there at the time or no?
No, not.
Oh, that was later.
That was later.
Okay.
Andrew Geetson, he was the chef de cuisine, if you will. He was at Avenues. He was with Curtis for a while. Mm-hmm. He worked at True. Like they all knew this dude. There was Zishan Shah. He's got Supercona now in Chicago. There was Yoni, and then Mike Simmons would come and hang out all the time. There was, oh my God, and then of course like Pandel has all these connections. In this restaurant, the menu would change every single fucking day, based upon what would come into the door. We would buy all whole animals, and that was his dedication to us. In, you know how hard it is to run a program. Like it's exhausting. Yeah. This dude was exhausted, and he was still coming to work, investing in us, showing us how to break down, 80-pound halibut, things you just don't see. Yeah. In Chicago restaurants. Like let's get it in whole. I'll show you how to use every single part of this thing. Hogs, goats, lambs, fish, you name it. Like massive giant squid, like shit you just don't see. Mm-hmm. So we had access to the only issue with that was the menu changed so much you didn't get enough repetitions on it, and so like half of it I just forgot.
Yeah.
But you were exposed to a lot of it, and a lot of times hopefully some of that comes back. But the menu changed just a ton, and in those first few years it was just hold on as much as you can, and there was really no prep cooks for the first 6 months. It was like you prep your entire station by yourself, and there was no reservations, so you're flat sat. Man. You're flat sat. You are 3-hour waits. Take people upstairs. They come down hammered. Everything's gone off the menu because it's like chalkboard menu of like, hey, we only have 6 of these. Yeah. And by the time you come down at 9:00, everything's gone. So it was, he had chicken wings on the menu, and it was a 21-step process to get these chicken wings to the fucking table, making the bread. Like, we would make the brioche for the croutons, for the stuffing, for the chicken wings. Like, just insanity. Every single thing was made. The chorizo farce. It was like, dude, this is fucking... And if you... saw that kitchen. And if you saw that kitchen,
it's the size of this room,
and you understood
it was like a table.
The garbage equipment we were working with. Yeah. I mean, we and part of it really too was like the dedication of, I'm going to open this restaurant on a shoestring budget, with 2 people, and you're going to be exposed to every bit of it, outside of like seeing financials. Like I built the walk-in cooler in the basement. Mm-hmm. I've never built a walk-in cooler. Yeah. I don't know how to do that. But like we framed it out. We put in the only thing we didn't do is hook up the condenser. It was like that type of we were involved in the construction because one, I just moved to the city. I had no fucking money, and they weren't paying us.
Of course they weren't.
But yeah. But it was like, I need the restaurant open so I can fucking survive. So whatever we had to do to help get it open. Yeah. But hindsight, like, showed me how to open a restaurant on a shoestring budget, and showed you that like the decor and all the shit on the walls really doesn't make that much of a difference. It's the food, it's the service, it's the amount you put into it, and you do with what you can, with what you have. Yeah. And it was like, we didn't have anything. We didn't circulate, and we didn't have a cryovac machine. We didn't have anything. And so it was a unbelievable immersion into, and every single day was 14-hour day. There was no 12-hour days. There wasn't. I mean, it was every single day. Our in time was 2:00, and we'd be there at 9:30, 10, because you had to. And it was not, would I have worked there? Could you? You couldn't do it.
You just no way.
You couldn't do it.
There's no way.
But I knew what I was getting into. I knew what I had signed up for. It was the reason I was there. It was, without that experience and just going through shit, there is no growth. And so it was very, it was the best. It's one of those places like you catch lightning in a bottle, and you are exposed to certain things. And it would be like one day I would just be there, and Dave Barron, the chef de cuisine of Alinea, is staging on the garde manger station of the Bristol because he needs to know how to fucking do all this crazy shit that we're fucking doing. Mm-hmm. Like, that kind of stuff was just wild to me. Of like the people coming through the doors, the people who were involved, who wanted to be around, and that we were exposed to and had access to, was just you can't plan those types of situations. It was one of these things. It was just by chance that I happened to work for this dude.
Yeah.
And I recognized that very early and was like, okay, I do need to leave and go be exposed to other things, but I will come back and bring them back with me. And so I'd go work for Paul Verant. I need to know how to pickle, preserve, ferment, and do, charcuterie and all these things that we were doing programs in that restaurant that I wanted to make better, but we just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so I needed to go get exposed to these things with the intention of basically bringing them back because I loved that restaurant that much. I was like, I want to make this the best place. And so kept that relation. That's part of the reason I was like, because I worked for him at Osteria. I was like, I want to go out. I want to go learn this stuff, go to London, come back, go to Italy, fucking immerse myself in that culture. Ended up, my girlfriend I met at Bristol. She was a server. She's my wife now. And then the two of us were like, it was very, she had a boyfriend, I had a girlfriend, and it was just like you're around each other all day, every day. And we were both like, you know what? Like, we start dating. I took her on her first day was on her birthday. Dumbest fucking thing I ever did. But that ended up within a year. It was like, all right, I need to go learn some shit. And so we ended up flying into Madrid. She's a school teacher, so she had summer off, and she was getting paid during the summer. So I was like, awesome. Sold my car, flew into Madrid, went to Barcelona, San Sebastian. That place, fucking
best food city in America.
Oh my God.
I mean, in the world, yeah.
I mean, really, really opened my eyes to just like
food city.
Wow, dude.
Yeah,
this is
they have everything.
Real.
3-star Michelins,
unreal.
Street food, everything.
And like riding, getting there, like trying to figure out how to get there from Barcelona is fucking wild. Mm-hmm. You're riding these trains that are just
it's
the train, dude.
Oh yeah, dude.
It's like fucking safe.
Rickety ass train.
Yeah,
I did that train ride from Madrid.
Just this, oh my God.
Yeah.
Coming from like from the train from Madrid to Barcelona was like the most luxurious.
Totally.
Bullet train.
Yeah.
First class was like $29.
Right.
You get jamon and fucking champagne.
Yeah. Little cans of Mao. Like this is great. And then you get on a train. It's like from India with people packed on the roof and stuff. You're like,
wild. Left there to go to. We rented a car because we didn't plan properly and had no train tickets. So we rented a car from San Sebastian to Paris.
Oh, that's a great drive.
It was fucking cool.
That's a great drive.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
I didn't have a valid.
Did you go through the Pyrenees then? Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Some of it was in the dark, so I couldn't even tell you.
What were some memorable meals in Madrid, Barcelona, San Sebastian? Do you remember? Or were you just eating like street food or?
All of it. But it, I feel like there wasn't the information that you have now when you travel. And so it was like kind of, we didn't plan anything really. Mm-hmm. Like I had the only thing I brought my knives. There was the intention that I was staying. She was going to go back. So I had a return ticket in like, I want to say we left in early July. I want to say early July because we were in France for Bastille Day. Mm-hmm. And we had no plan at all.
Sounds like a great vacation.
We had no plan. All we knew is that I was going to fly into Madrid, and we had the plane ticket because we were like, "What's the cheap?" Madrid was the cheapest city for us to fly into. Yeah. And I knew that she wanted to go to Paris, I wanted to go to Italy, and that was it. and we both settled on flying into Spain. And we were like, all right, well, I've heard about San Sebastian a lot. I think we should, and nobody really that I knew at that time had been there. And so that I knew of, I'm sure, there was definitely people that I know now who were there at that time, but like, it wasn't something that was talked about commonly. And so I just knew it was a super great food city. And I was like, I need to see that. So when we got there, it was like a lot of wandering, a lot of markets, a lot of street food. But there was no like, the part of it was like, I didn't have the money to go eat at a 3-star Michelin restaurant. There's no way I didn't have that money to blow. Especially because we knew, like, I had more money now than I had when I went to London. And part of the reason I was just like, I couldn't survive. London is so, as soon as I got there,
fucking expensive.
As soon as I got off the plane, my money was worth half.
Yeah.
'Cause I think it was $2 to the dollar at that point.
Yeah.
Or $2 to the pound. And so, I had brought over, and I was having friends ship me cartons of cigarettes to sell. That's of Camels from the United States.
Jesus
to sell.
Christ,
I'm not kidding,
man.
I'm not joking. I'd be like, yo, can you bring over 3 cartons of cigarettes? They're charging 20 fucking pounds
Holy
for a pack of
shit.
cigarettes here. Because like a pack of cigarettes was like a 10-pack, and they were paying the same price for a 10-pack as they were paying almost double for
You
a
have
pack.
any idea how illegal that is?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so, but it was like whatever we have to do to get by. It would be like
Dude, bring a bag of crack, too. Fuck it.
why is there 40 cartons of cigarettes in your luggage?
I want to go
sir?
eat at Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah,
Bring a bag of crack.
Oh, man. So, and then of course, then people were like, "You have American cigarettes? Give me fucking American." Like they loved that.
Yeah.
So I had more. I sold my car, so I had more money. But it was still like there was no. I do have a journal written down of probably every place I ate.
Yeah.
I couldn't really tell you any place that I actually went to. There was Botín, which is like in Madrid, and it's either, I think it's Madrid, and it is the second top 5 oldest restaurants in the world.
Oh, yeah, right.
Where it's like suckling pig.
Yeah.
It's fucking delicious.
Yeah. So tender.
It's awesome. Like
They cut it with a plate.
Yeah, dude.
They just come by. I went to Segovia
Yes.
and we went to the suckling pig place. They put a whole suckling pig down and they just take like a side plate and they're just like cutting through it. I'm like, this is gonna be great.
And there was a lot of Spain was in the World Cup at that time, and so we were following the World Cup from city to city, and when we got to San Sebastian, they won, and it was fucking chaos.
It's ridiculous.
Like in the streets, like just unbelievable. So we were at every Pinchos bar. We were at every,
just making friends.
Awesome,
making friends.
And it was like we ate at maybe two. We had to make maybe 2 really upscale restaurants, 1-stars, maybe a 2-star. Couldn't tell you at this point in time. I don't even know if they're still open.
Yeah.
But it was super cool, like very very boundary pushing food for that time especially. But predominantly, especially in Spain, it was all, I did go to it was like a tin fish joint. I think Bourdain went there. It's outside Barcelona. Like we would just do random things like that.
What?
No, it was
wait, outside San Sebastian?
yeah. No, outside
Barcelona.
It was like in a beach town north of North Barcelona.
Yeah, those beaches in the Costa Brava are ridiculous.
Well, and then so like we just spent a day. We just went. It was just me and my wife just on a beach by ourselves. It was fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, eating fucking jamon sandwiches, drinking beers,
Just like,
drinking claras.
you just
beers
don't
mixed with
cava
lemonade.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Just like, bottle of wine was $3.
Uh-huh.
Cal Pep in
Gal Peps,
Barcelona.
yeah, ridiculous. Yeah.
Fucking still to this day one of the best experiences I've ever had in a restaurant, just from a hospitality standpoint alone, because it's like it was me and somehow we ended up seeing one of our friends from who worked for Van Camp. He just got married. He was on his honeymoon, we were on Las Ramblas, and he's like walking
into
he's
them.
like, dude,
That's insane.
he's like, we gotta go to dinner, and I'm like, you're on your honeymoon.
Yeah, right.
Why?
Right. Yeah.
But we ended up going to dinner, and it was like one of these situations that was a mind-blowing place because there was no reservations, all seafood, only a bar.
Yeah.
Like the
Counter service.
kitchen's behind the
tiny,
fucking,
man.
super tiny. But he was like, you got a 4-top, I got a wine room in the back. Put us in the wine room. There was probably 6 other tables back there, and saw the fact that we're like 26-year-old kids who have no money whatsoever.
Right.
basically there was no menu. It was like every course was just like, hey, it's this. Do you want meat next? Do you want seafood next? Yeah. Great. Bottle of wine, great. We have no idea. We don't see any prices. We're fucking shitting our pants. Like, what are we gonna do right now? Because it's a Spiaggia moment of like, cheap. I have no idea what this is gonna cost. And the dude literally comes up with a paper, scribbles on the thing, looks at us,
looks around,
$75.
Yeah, right.
Like,
right.
Dude?
That's San Sebastian too. It was like crowded pincho bar.
Yeah.
You ate your weight in pinchos.
Oh god.
And you go, hey, how many? Goes, who are you? Basically, what did you have? Fucking
$12.
$12, man. But
so
it was was like, for me, it was like Madrid and France is like the markets is what was for me was like, oh yeah, this is different,
mind blowing. Open air markets.
Fuck, what is
everywhere?
This, man?
Hams,
yeah.
Jamons everywhere,
and the seafood.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, we're never going. We're never leaving. So then Paris. We spent 7 days in Paris. Like. We spent too much time in Paris. We didn't spend enough time everywhere else. But it was
7 days in Paris.
Yeah,
that's a fucking long
time,
man.
Yeah, it's a long time.
It's like 3 days.
It's like her favorite. We went to Versailles. We were catacombs and hit a place called Itineraires. I don't know if that's still open. That was awesome. That was on the cusp of like the, we don't the Michelin revolt of like we don't want your fucking star. We don't care. You're not going to tell us we're good.
Man, Paris is going through this fucking revolution of these tiny little like bistros, if you will call them, like Chateaubriand and Frenchies, where it's like there's 3 guys in the kitchen, 1 person on the floor.
Yeah.
There's a 5-course tasting menu.
Yeah.
You might get a choice between something, and there's a line outside the fucking door, no reservations.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, man, that's the way to do it.
That's fun.
That's the way to fucking do it.
And it was, and we went to, again, Alain Ducasse. These Guy Savoy, these places that
I always wanted to go to Guy Savoy.
Just like places that are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And the food and the baguettes and the fucking jambons.
The trolleys of desserts. You're like, Jesus. What army
coffee,
produced
the
this trolley?
It's just, the romantic idea of what food is in Europe is just in every other place in the world. Yeah. I feel like, except for processed food kingdom that we live in. So at Paris we took a train to Venice, and then we went to Venice, to Bologna, Cinque Terre, Rome. She left. Florence, Rome. She left. I stayed, and the only thing I brought with me was, like I said, with my knives. I had a backpack from a buddy that I borrowed. It was like a Arc'teryx travel pack, and then a like 10-inch, I swear to God, it was a 30-pound laptop.
I did the same thing.
Because like
I did the same thing.
It was the smallest one I could find, but somehow it was a fucking brick.
Yeah.
Because I had no plans, and so it was like I had no plans. We had no itinerary. So like the city we would get to, I would then make travel arrangements to where we were. I was like, where do we want to go in Italy? We have to see Venice. Like, what's there? I don't fucking know.
Yeah, that's the way
but
to
like,
do it, man.
Let's just start Googling. And it was like, going through, finding a hotel, then finding how to get there. And you get to Venice and be like, I got to go to Bologna because like it's Bologna.
Now you're here. Right?
So that was basically how I would determine where I was going next and how I'd get around. And I had the intention the entire time of like when she left, I was gonna work in stage and do all these things. And it, again, had a really hard time finding kitchens to get into because they were like, you have no papers, you have no, like, you're an American, we don't trust you.
There's nobody vouching.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I ended up going to Palermo. From Rome, I took a flight to Palermo in Sicily. And that was something else, man. Like the at that time, especially, it was not, Americans weren't they didn't trust me for shit. Like treat like dog shit. Fuck, get the fuck out of here. But go to restaurants, and I was like, hey, like, I remember eating at this one restaurant. I don't even, it's written down somewhere. I have his card. And it was, he was running the restaurant and his mom was the chef, and I was like, this food is fucking incredible. Caponata and just like fucking bucatini al con la sarde and the wild fennel and all the products that they had and the seafood. And it was just like, I need to come here. Can I please just work in your kitchen? And he would literally go in the back and come back out and be like, Mama says no today.
Nah, not today. No.
No, not today. And he's, he was one of the few people I met that spoke English, and it was just like, she would not let me anywhere near that kitchen. She's like, there's no chance that this dude is good. I'll never forget. She like comes through the door, peeks out, sees me. She's like, absolutely not. No way. No way. No fucking way.
That guy? No way.
No chance. And so it was, I spent maybe 3 weeks there, just kind of checking everything out. The markets, the restaurants, the food, the culture, the history. And then again, was just like searching for a place to work. And I ended up finding a place in Abruzzo, where it was an agriturismo. And basically agriturismo is like a farm tourism, where Europeans would vacation to this sheep farm in Abruzzo. So it'd be like, they had an ad out on Craigslist, and they were like, we need a cook, essentially. And I was like, hey, can I come do this? You don't have to pay me, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
They're like, we have a room you can stay in.
That's all you need, man.
And we'll feed you.
And we'll feed you. That's it.
And you might get a shower every couple weeks. But yeah. And so I ended up going, and it was in the mountains of Abruzzo. We're at about 7,000 feet elevation. And again, I cannot tell you how I got there. Like, it is a fucking miracle that I got on the train that I needed to be on, found the car that I was supposed to be. Like, there was no anything. It was like, couldn't read half the signs, couldn't talk to a single. If you're in Abruzzo, there are no Americans.
Nobody tries.
No one fucking speaks
No one
English.
speaks English. Nobody tries. Nobody gives a fuck.
They don't care.
Yeah.
And so it was like, got on this bus, and I'm going on, I got off this one place, and they're like, this car's going to come pick you up. And I'm literally in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Just
like,
standing
getting
there.
off a bus. And I'm like, hopefully, and all of a sudden this white truck pulls up, and they're like, yeah, that's the guy. Like, get in.
That's definitely the guy.
The dog's in the front.
Yeah,
I'm in the back of the pickup truck with the hay bales and shit. And they drove me into this town, and it was 500 people in the town, in a mountain. Like, the town was built on a mountain fortress, fucking just like unreal. And then there was one restaurant, and they were like, once you get to this town, go into this tavern, the taverna, grab the red phone, pick it up, ask for Nuncio, and Nuncio will come down and pick you up. And like, this truck dropped me off in this square, and
see you later, sucker.
70 of the residents of the town were just there, like staring at me like, who the fuck is this guy? And Nuncio came down, picked me up, and I went up there, and I was there for I don't even know. I worked in their kitchen as basically, it wasn't like the chef of the restaurant was this town school teacher. So it was like, this not like culinary esteemed,
oh man,
just pedigree.
Yeah.
It was like, no, she taught science earlier today, and now she's teaching me how to make
I'm gonna make
takote.
this. Yeah.
And you're just like, what the fuck is takote?
What's happening?
I've never heard of this. And then you start eating, and you're like, the food was just mind-blowingly simple and good and incredible, and it was from where we were. Like, everything was from that mountain. It would be like, people from Switzerland and Sweden and Czechoslovakia, all these people, Croatia, would come and vacation on this farm. And it was a sheep's milk pecorino. They were making sheep's milk pecorino and ricotta.
Uh-huh.
And so I was a byproduct working in the kitchen. I get to hang out and watch this dude just like, and get involved with the cheesemaking process. And was just fucking in love. I was like, this is the best place I've ever seen in my entire life. And it was like the ingredients that we were producing, someone from the other side of the mountain would come around and trade us. Here's 10 brook trout from my creek. I'll trade you them for a wheel of pecorino.
And that American guy.
And, and here's some tomatoes, and here's carrots, and here's from our garden. You give us stuff from your garden. Here's like, and it was just what it was.
Jesus.
And it was like, that was that night's dinner. And we would cook for whatever guests were staying in the agriturismo, and usually it was probably like maybe 20 people at the most. but it was breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I was expected to be there to make sure it was taken care of. And then I have to walk my ass down to the town. Like, this was a solid mile straight up the mountain where this place was, but then I would walk down to the town and stay in my apartment that had no shower, no hot water at all. So it was like I'm sitting there washing my fucking balls in the sink. You're just doing like freezing your nuts off in September in the mountains, no windows. You're just like freezing, no heat. They're like, hey, there's extra blankets. But it was a humbling experience for sure. Immersing yourself in someone else's completely daily lives was just awesome, amazing. The fact that they let me do this. There was one person. It was Nuncio's wife. I blank on her name, but she was the only person who spoke English. And she's like, I spent time in Chicago at university.
No way.
35.
What are the fucking chances,
40
man?
years ago.
What are the chances?
And so she knew a small amount of English.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Oh,
everybody knows Michael Jordan. Al Capone.
And so then the only other name, I'm sitting in the middle of mountains of Abruzzo, 8,000 feet elevation.
Don't even say Tony Mantuano.
Tony Mantuano.
Don't even fucking say
And I was like,
Tony Mantuano.
Are you fucking kidding me right now? And she's like, yeah. He buys our cheese.
Oh, fuck,
and I was just like, what?
My life has come full circle,
dude. And so there was 2 restaurants in the country that were using her cheese.
You should have been like,
Spiaggia.
I got a story for you. I ate at Spiaggia and I have enough money to pay the bill.
I'll trade a wheel of pecorino for my fucking lobster ravioli. But yeah, it was. She's like, oh, you know Tony Mantuano? Like, I just fucking know Tony Mantuano when I'm a 21-year-old kid.
At that point, you just say, yeah, totally.
Oh, yeah, I was
like,
like,
100%.
Yeah, Tony. Yeah,
T-Bone. We call him T-Bone in Chicago.
And so then, of course, it was him and Quince were the only 2 places in the country that were using her cheese.
Wow.
And so then I was like, how do I get this product? And I brought it back. And they actually have of course, and she was like, oh, well, our cousin imports it in New Jersey. I was like, of course he does. Of course he does.
What a fucking story, man.
You know? So it was, we ended up, and we still.
Yeah, my cousin worked for Cisco. You get it from them.
But to this day, we use it in every restaurant still to this day.
Amazing.
And it is the one ingredient that we put on stuff, and people are like, where the fuck did you get this?
Yeah.
And it's, $38 a pound, but it's like, it's that magic cheese that just.
You get it from the New Jersey suppliers?
Marcelli Formaggi. They're huge now. I mean, like, in New York, they're to the point where, like, I spent so much time there, immersed in their cheese and they're eating their product, and it's so unique that I'm sitting in Teresi in Manhattan, and with Lee, this is November, we were there for Michelin, and we're eating lunch, and they put the salad down, and I take a bite of the salad, and I go, that's Marcelli Formaggi cheese.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? And I was like, hold on. I'm like, and it's not the one that we use. It's this ricotta that's rubbed in Calabrian chilies, right? And it's like such a distinct flavor. And I literally was like, I had to stop. I was like, I need to call the server. I'm like, this is Marcelli Formaggi's cheese. This is their ricotta. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he like goes away, comes back, and the chef comes out of the kitchen, goes, that's Marcelli Formaggi's cheese from ricotta. I'm like, holy shit, dude. I know that anywhere, dude. I would know that anywhere. But it's that distinct. It's like it was this. It's one of those things where it was just like, I don't know if you're just like meant to go visit this place, but it was like so many different things. And then it was like, you just became part of the family. It was like hey, we're going to go down around to the other town, around the other side of the mountain on this single lane road.
We're going to fight them.
On this
Grab your belt.
On this single lane road. We're going to get hammered, and then we're going to drive back.
The worst, man.
And it was like, fucking white knuckle driving.
I've been on a couple of those
sheer
trips
cliffs,
up the mountain.
Sheer cliffs.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can see is the moonlight
of
the water reflecting down
you're passing
death.
buses. You're like,
oh my
holy
God.
shit. Yeah.
But like when you get to that place, it's this lady in the town square with a fucking giant bucket of wine, pouring them into every single person's glass. Huge parties, huge festivals, just like really, really. I mean, the day to day, no technology, no fucking, conveniences
Not a
of
care
daily
in the
life.
world, man.
And it was the happiest place I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it really changed my perspective on a lot of things, what's important. And ended up coming home. to an apartment that my girlfriend, who is now my wife, never saw it. And we're just like, let's just move in. Moved in there. On that way home, airport story, I have my knives. I have everything packed. I'm flying out of Rome. And I'm in Roman airport. And I'm like, plane is boarding. And I'm sitting in the area and they're like, you know, Joseph Frillman, come to the. I was like, son of a bitch, dude. I'm in Rome and fucking
good, man.
God is summoning me to the desk. And I just walk up and the attendant at the desk was like, do you have knives in your bag, sir? And I was like, yeah, I have knives in my bag. Why? They're like, you need to come with us. And they open the gate and they walk me down to the tarmac.
Baggage area?
In the baggage area, underneath the plane. And they're like, there's a dude sitting there in his arm
way
on a back of a fucking golf cart. He's like this, and he's just bleeding. And they drive around. In my knife bag, there's a fucking knife sticking straight out of it. And the baggage handler grabbed it and just fucking shredded his whole thing here. So I'm getting grilled, right? I packed, like, knives are sharp. Like, at that time, I sharpened my knives all the time. My knives were very sharp. But I also packed them properly in a Kevlar bag. And so then I was like...
Yeah, wait a minute.
So then I was like, what the fuck were you guys doing with my baggage that made it do this, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I started getting
let me ask you some questions.
Oh, yeah. So, and I'm not joking. There was 20 fucking people staring at me, like, and I don't speak a word. I mean, at that time, I understood. Mm-hmm. I understood, like, this ain't a great situation I'm in right now.
Right.
Cops were there, all sorts of security, all sorts of baggage handlers, and everybody's yelling at each other. Not me. They're yelling at each other, like, you know.
Very Italian.
Yeah,
Lots of hands.
They're very, they're talking. So it was like, they're like, and so I'm sitting there like, I'm fucked, dude. Like, they're like, unpack your bag. So they make me unpack it. And they're looking at like what it went through. And they're like, I mean, he packed it right. Like, I don't really know what to say. And they're trying to figure out what I'm doing. And they're like, what are you, and I'm like, chef, like, I'm a chef, cook. And they're like, Cuoco? And everyone's like, oh, he's a cook. And the guy whose arm's standing there, and he's like, oh, he's okay. He's a cook. Hey, we love you. And it was it. And they're like, go on the plane. And I was like, oh my fucking God, dude.
Yeah. In London, you'd still be in jail.
Oh my God. And of course, the plane had been sitting there for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I get on the plane. Everyone's fucking pissed. But it was like, thought I was dead. But yeah, so then came back and ended up going to Perennial. Which is, you were there
My
before.
Old stomping grounds, man. Yeah.
So that was Paul Verant was there, and that was, like I said, I wanted to learn. I mean, that dude's just, he really taught me how to treat people. Mm-hmm. His employee retention is just fucking second to none.
Fuck, nobody taught me that.
And it was just like, it's food at the end of the day, and you need to really chill the fuck out, because I'm coming from like discipline and also expectations and just like you need to work your nuts off to get ahead, and seeing the amount of success that this person's able to pull off while air guitaring in the fucking walk-in cooler is just like awesome. And it was like how to treat people, how to really invest in the people that are with you, because they'd been with them for so long. The food, the preservation, the pickling, the fermentation, the people that I worked with there are all doing a lot of their own things right now as well. Like Carlo LaMagna in Portland, was just, you're surrounded by all these awesome dudes who are all there for the same reasons. And then Chris called and was like, "You want to open Belena?" Mm-hmm. And it was like,
man, Belena was so fucking good,
dude. It was the best.
It was so fucking good.
It was the best. And that was I was with the Boca group, and I really enjoyed working with Kevin. And at that time, I think we were the fourth restaurant. Mm-hmm. And so Belena, fourth or fifth? I think it was fourth. And so I had a lot different, again, like, you're there. It was like Pandel's working next to me on a station. I'm with Kevin's there. Like, these people are involved, and we got to see that operation, see a much smaller company and how they do their things and how service is run and the attention to detail and the amount of effort it takes to put food out for 400 people. But doing it in a way that was still like very respectable from my standpoint. The amount of work and effort in farming, and that's kind of how my brother, we started working with him. That's when he got into farming, because we were like, we have the buying power to help sustain you if you can grow these great products. And that was like, that started that relationship.
That's dope. Yeah.
So that came out of that restaurant, and then all of Boca Group started using him, and then people surrounding them. There was like a Linea down the street. Hey, they're right there. Boca's using them. Like,
Sick, man.
So that was his introduction. I spent 3 years there, and had a lot of personal things going on in life that just needed attention. I got married, and when I'd come back from my honeymoon, of course, it was my honeymoon. We went to Costa Rica, and it was 2 weeks, and it was the first time I left my phone at home. It was the first time I've ever done that.
Man.
And was just like, if there's an emergency, Jenna's got she has the phone. I am literally.
That's great.
Goodbye.
Christ, man.
And it was the first time that I just did nothing, literally, and laid on a beach, traveled to volcanoes and the jungles, just like a place that is nothing like where I'm from. Was so the food, the time that I was just able to just like decompress, and I came back and was like, I got to change everything.
Yeah,
I can't do this anymore. And so it was like really shifted the lens of what's important, and got out of the desire to work 15-hour days. I wanted to, again, my wife's a school teacher. She works 8 to 10 p.m., but 8 to 6, 8 to 5, 8 to 4, and then I would be working from 10 to 11, and she's asleep when I come home. And it was just like, if this is going to work out, something's got to give. And, I knew that getting into that relationship that she wanted kids. And like I said, I was indifferent at that time, but I was like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, we can still have a great life and travel and do anything we want. Like,
sounds
it's
like
not
you're
like
having a
it's
good
not
time
like
right now.
it's
Yeah.
not a loss, but at the same time, so then, planned that. I started doing consulting for AJ Capital and what's the Element Collective, and Element Collective was running these graduate hotels across the country. And so then it was like, all right, you get to now, you know how to cook the way I want to cook. I felt very competent in my skill set for the first time. Leaving that restaurant was like, I can cook. I know I can rely on the skill set and the knowledge that I've built this body of work. That's the least of my problems right now. I need to know how to run a business. I need to know how to run a restaurant, not just from the back of house standpoint. And at Belena, I got to work with Aaron Phillips, who's just like,
Oh, Aaron's great. Yeah.
Probably the most talented general manager I've ever worked with, and just somebody who would push me so hard. And she would I would do her job, and it would piss me off because she was teaching me how to do it.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize at the time, like, all the things that I was being exposed to, from a wine program to running payroll to, like, inventories and vendors. And, like, I was always like, man, why the fuck am I doing all this shit? And I was like, oh, yeah, no shit. She was teaching me the entire time. I had no idea. So that was just super important. Did the consulting, was in Mississippi, Oxford, Mississippi. We were in Charlottesville, Virginia. So it exposed me to different places of the country that I had no reason to go to. And so that was cool to see the regional differences in this country. And then started likening, Italy has all these regions and all these proud traditions. And, if your matriciana is made in this part of town as opposed to this part of town, you're going to get motherfucked for your onions or whatever it is.
It's a different noodle.
And so that I kind of like equated this country into that in a little bit, the cultures and traditions. And it's like, our food scene's actually pretty dope here if you get down to it. Cultures and traditions for such a short history of a country, in terms of, after colonization. So like they put the, I really got to learn how to run the entire operation business from the ground up, building the restaurants, building the concepts, fleshing them out, working with people who were not career cooks, not career chefs. The importance of menus that were, simplified but also delicious. And that led me to, I took 2 years. I want to say off because like consulting to me was kind of 2 years off, even though it was still, I think, 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
But I was like, 40 hours a week, that's fucking nothing. This is awesome. And so that ended up, I did a barbecue for turned out to be one of our investors. He just called and asked and said, hey, would you want to do this barbecue for my 20 to party for work? He's a surgeon. And it was like, sure. Like I got nothing to do. I haven't cooked in a long time. Like I wasn't cooking. I was decompressing and reintroducing myself into life, if you will. And it was like, did this barbecue, and he was like, if you ever want to do a restaurant, like this was crazy good. I don't fucking do barbecue. I don't fucking know what I'm doing. But that attention to detail and the research that you put into it, and it's like, hey, let's do this. And it was me and my wife Jenna, and we did the party. And he was like, you ever want to do anything? And I was like, nah, never even crossed my mind for years.
Right.
And I was like, then it wouldn't get out of my head. So I was like, I think I have to take him up on the offer. And so then, I did. And then we found a couple other investors, and then that's when Daisies came about.
Amazing.
It's wild.
And you pulled all the experience from all the small towns in Italy.
Yeah.
From spending time with Chris Pandel to Osteria to barbecue to everything.
Yeah.
And you call it Midwestern Italian?
We are a Midwest Italian restaurant. And
That's dope.
it's, we tell everybody in the restaurant, it's like, who works there, if the Midwest was a region in Italy, what would the food look like?
Interesting.
And that's the approach that we take.
A lot of casseroles.
We do. I mean, that's part of, like, I'm always like, look, the first thing that, and of course, like, Leo Malinsky is a classic French trained pastry chef. She's worked in L2O. She's worked with Matt Kirkley. She's worked with like some of the best. She's worked with Laurent Gras. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of the best in the world spend time in France. And I'm like, the first thing that she comes into in the restaurant is me handing her a bunch of Midwest pastry church cookbooks of like, here's here's your scotcheroos and your fucking strawberry pretzel salad.
Here's some rum balls.
Strawberry pretzel salad. Like, here, can we, these are revolution. She's just looking at me like, what the fuck is this guy doing? But that was the mentality of just like, hey, like, what is the history of the cuisine here? What did I grow up with? Can we improve on it? Can we find the best ingredients as simply as we can possibly present them, as locally as we can, and have a good time doing it. And that's basically, when you see ingredients from all over the world still, and Parmigiano Reggiano is Parmigiano Reggiano. You're not going to get that anywhere else.
Right.
So you still have to go get these products. So
there's someone in Italy saying Wisconsin cheddar is Wisconsin cheddar. You're not going to get that in Italy. I mean, I doubt it, but hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, but
a good analogy. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so but we also, it's like we just, we don't have a ton of olive oil here. We have butter, so fucking butters and everything. Mm-hmm. But it's that, we have our Frito Mistos. We still pay homage to a lot of like the traditional things, but it's through the lens, and the food is just nothing like what you would experience from a traditional sense in Italy. Yeah. So far it's worked out.
Fuck, man, what an amazing story. What
an
amazing story, man.
It's wild. And I still, the crazy part about the entire thing is like, I still feel like we are just getting started.
Right. Yeah, I feel the same way.
And we're just scratching the surface of the
feel
potential of what we have.
I feel like I just started to be able to wrap my head around how to cook good food.
Correct. And we're
like recently, like in the last 3 years maybe.
Yeah. I mean, and we're, we just turned 7, and I still feel like, man, we just have so much potential to just flush out all these cool ass fucking ideas.
I think that's the best way to
yeah.
If you think it, you know it all, or you think you've done it all, you're probably on the wrong side of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's, I approach every day with just, there hasn't been a day yet that I've just dreaded. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I love everything that I do. I mean, there's things that suck.
Of course, man.
But it's like,
such is life.
Every day is like, man, you know what? Like, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
Like, we can go and let's inspire some people. Let's hang out with great people.
Yeah.
give them the opportunity to do what they want to do, create opportunities for these people. And we've had a great retention, you know.
It says a lot about you.
It's fun. I mean, you know, hopefully you pick something up along the way. And so
besides pecorino cheese from a small town.
Oh man, it's so fucking good. I'm gonna put you in contact with
yeah,
this dude.
definitely. I'm
It's
interested now. Yeah,
because they ship it to us. It's fun.
Yeah, great.
It's the best, man.
Well, thanks for yesterday, man. We crushed the fucking guest chef dinner at Iggy's.
Yeah, I think
everybody had a great time. We had a great time having you.
Oh
the
man,
staff loved you.
I mean, me and Thomas were talking this morning. It's just like your setup is awesome.
It's pretty dope. Yeah.
I was like, man, you guys, you thought through that very well.
Yeah, everything's where it needs to be.
It's very efficient. It's it's
you.
awesome. You don't come across kitchens. It reminds me a lot of Bristol.
Yeah.
In a far better equipped and well thought out kitchen.
Yeah, thanks.
As opposed to some schmucks fucking building a walk-in downstairs.
Folding table. Yeah.
I mean, like, it does, because it has that very similar, you know, I'm looking at the roster of cooks that you have and the resumes that these guys have.
Yeah, man.
And it reminds me a lot of the places that Bristol had just started. You know, Justin Carlisle was a line cook with us. He just stepped down from his chef job. Andrew Geetson stepped down from Avenues to come be a line cook with us. Like, something is going on that is attracting people to a better place.
Yeah.
And to start, I don't want to say take steps back, because that's not what it is. It's just this desire.
It's an attraction.
To get back to the basics and what brought you here to begin with, and then build you up.
And we have a lot of fun.
And when I walked through the door and saw the people that we're working with and the amount, and you're there and you're just involved, it was that, man, this is that feeling of like, this is one of those places that can be a kind of lightning in a bottle, magical type place. So
that's
like,
a great compliment.
kudos to you, man. Like, it's unbelievable to see.
Thank you. I don't know,
because you know everyone in the fucking world.
I don't know how I did it. I don't know. Most of it is I have to thank Matthew for it. He's really the fucking face and the chief of the restaurant. And,
we talked a little bit last night. We both work with our siblings. So I work with my brother at the farm.
Yeah.
You work with your sibling on a daily basis. And we were talking about how much you enjoy that and how hard and how difficult that is on a daily basis as well. You work with them daily. I got one 60 miles away.
I think the special thing about Matthew is we're best friends first, siblings second.
Yeah.
Or depending on the day. And I think on top of that is we have a tremendous amount of respect for each other. And anytime he opens his mouth, it's always going to be for the better of the restaurant.
Sure.
And he's thinking for the better of the restaurant, whether I want to hear it or not. I'll take a step back and I'll be like, okay, he's right. And I think like that's the success that we have, is the amount of respect we have for each other, where I know this isn't some sort of game he's playing, or I know he's not stealing money, or it's just, I leave the restaurant after service and I know my brother's there to close the place down.
I mean, that's a pretty cool thing to have.
It's just like all the worry and anxiety is just left at the fucking door, and I go home.
That's awesome.
You know, so
special, man.
Yeah. Please come back to Nashville anytime you want.
All right, man.
If people want to find you, where do they find you at, man?
We are Daisies Restaurant, Logan Square, 2375 North Milwaukee Avenue.
Well, you can find him there, you know. Joe, it was a real pleasure, man. Thanks so much. It was an honor to cook with you and get to know you over the weekend. So we'll see you in Chicago soon.
That's great, man. I really appreciate you guys having me out.
Thanks, brother.
And we'll see you in Chicago.
I'll see you in Chicago.
Yeah.